A very good morning to everyone, and a very warm welcome to this masterclass session for the L'Oreal Brandstorm 2025. I'm thrilled to have all of you join us today. My name is Ravi Deep. I'm a part of the Brandstorm team at L'Oreal currently. So, as we approach the submission deadline for round one, that is due tomorrow EOD, today's session is majorly designed to provide you with valuable insights to sharpen and refine your submissions. As I mentioned, the submission deadline is tomorrow, end of day. So make the most of this opportunity. In today's session, we'll delve into effective strategies for brands to connect with consumers in the dynamic beauty and care industry. And to guide us through this insightful session, we have two esteemed speakers from L'Oreal, each bringing a wealth of experience in marketing and brand building. So, without further ado, I would like to call on our first speaker, that is Ms. Pravalika Vamareddy. She currently serves as the Assistant General Manager Marketing at L'Oreal Paris. She's been instrumental in driving business and strategy for flagship categories in skincare and makeup in India. So, over to you, Pravalika.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Pravalika. I look after the L'Oreal Paris skincare and makeup business. So today we have something very interesting. What we thought we could share is a very interesting case study. Some of you would have already seen it. If not, we are very happy to hear your thoughts. But before I get into the session, a little bit about myself. I've been with the group for about 9 years. Before this, I was with another organization. I've done roles across innovations, zone roles, which is the headquarters role, and back in the country in terms of activation. Moved around different categories as well because L'Oreal gives you that opportunity. And yes, here I am leading the skincare and makeup business for India on L'Oreal Paris. So without further ado, let's just get into the session. What I have is stuff that probably some of you would have heard, some of you would have felt it, and some of you would have probably heard it in passing across as well. It's a lot about India and women. And as L'Oreal Paris, the biggest flagship brand of the L'Oreal group, what we take immense pride is in leading the women empowerment journey in India. And that's something that we'll talk a little bit about, and how inciting and understanding the consumer helps us build these com strategies, and how do you build them in a more new age way, because traditional media is not always relevant anymore. So how do you do it in a more new age way, with advocacy, community, eventing? And that's something we'll talk a little bit about, to nudge you in your journey as future marketers to build your vision. Okay, this is something we all know. India has around 700 million women across the country, and 250 million women are in workforce in different kinds of jobs. But we have a huge workforce, probably only second to China, which is around at 320 million, right? So we have a huge workforce, and we have some very, very celebrated CEOs in our country, and their achievements are being celebrated across multiple walks of life. If you see movies in popular culture, Vogue, Forbes, we have some phenomenal startup CEOs led by women, and one of our biggest beauty partner, Nykaa, it's led by Falguni, for example. So their achievements are being celebrated in all walks of life, and that's a huge shift that we've seen over the years. But we still know that there is this life stage at a mid-career when a lot of women take a break. Around 57% women take a mid-career pause, and a large part of them is due to their maternity break, because when they go on their maternity, they want to prioritize their family, or their family is moving to another city, and then they will have to prioritize their partners. So there are a lot of people who do that, and a lot of them also find it very, very difficult to join back to mainstream work. And that's something that we've seen across the board, right? And we realize that, for a lot of Indian women across the strata of society, it's a tightrope walk. So Indian society continues to place these invisible boundaries. We call it the Lakshman Rekha more colloquially, on what women can do and cannot do. For example, Be strong, but not too assertive. Dream very big, but stays too small. So there's a lot of calibrations and tensions that you see, and these are something the society places on you. You do not place it on yourself. So there is this ever, there is this dichotomy. There is success, like the society and people around celebrate success, and it's always appreciated, but there are always conditions applied. So you dream and then you have conditions applied, and hence success is fine, professional economic success is fine, but there is always this invisible diktat that it needs to be still controlled, and that's what something that we've realized a lot through a lot of our inciting work that we've done about Indian women, and the dichotomy of being Indian women. Now that's a little bit about the Indian context, and then for L'Oreal Paris, yes, we are a big brand globally. You can see in all our financial reports how big we are, and L'Oreal Paris is a brand that's present across all categories, right? We have hair care, hair color, we have skincare, we have makeup. Even in skincare, we have female skincare, and globally we have male skincare, and we are getting into devices as well with hair color. So as a category and the flagship brand of the company, we are present across. But there is a key brand gap when you study that the L'Oreal Paris imagery faces in India. It is about the brand is a legacy brand. The brand has great equity, but what is the gap is probably today that in India we do not have a modern and an authentic young voice, because the brand has been built over so many years. So how do you change the brand to present itself to a more younger audience? And I think that was a huge gap that we had. But also because the brand stands for the very powerful tagline of "I'm worth it." How do you have a voice of reason that talks to this audience as well as has that gravitas to say, yes, I'm worth it? And so last year around September, we signed Alia, and Alia was a voice of reason, and the choice was very interesting. Because her story is very interesting as well, and we do a lot of studies to assess this with consumers. She was born into privilege. She got trolled for in a talk show for something she said, and for someone who started off like that to be in a position of power and influence, it's been a phenomenal rise. And she's not just a Bollywood celebrity, right? She's also a very smart and savvy entrepreneur. She also has taken on conversations on someone talking about her getting Botox done. She speaks very boldly against her trolls. And she's also been celebrated, of course, for talent. But what is also very interesting about Alia, which we felt was a perfect fit for the brand, is how she celebrates Indian pride on the global stage. Whether it's Met Gala, whether it's her global appearance, she celebrates and wears Indian pride extremely strongly. So we wanted a profile or a celebrity who is our voice of reason, who will help the brand have a more modern and authentic take. Because today you go on her social media, she's quite authentic, right? And that's something we wanted a lot more. And hence, last year in September, we had Alia join us. And talking back to the challenge and the dichotomy that Indian women face, we launched a campaign with her. And hope you all have seen it, but here it is in case you haven't.
सपने देखो पर अपनी हदें मत भूलो. Speak up, but don't think you'll be heard. Look good, but don't look too skinny or too curvy. We've heard these things so many times, है ना? So what do I say in response? कुछ नहीं. क्योंकि what's important is what I say to myself. I say कोई भी opinion cannot limit who I am and who I can be. मैं सपने देखूंगी और आसमां को भी छू जाऊंगी. I can speak up and be heard loud and clear, look good and accept my ever-changing body. क्योंकि that is the true test of my self-worth. The words that I say to myself and the choices that I make. Because my word is my choice. I'm Alia Bhatt. I'm worth it. And so are you. L'Oreal Paris, you're worth it.
Okay. So we launched this campaign with Alia. Anyway, she's one of the biggest followers on Instagram in India. She's amongst the top few women followers in India as well. But what was phenomenal for us is we do have Alia, but we also have many global ambassadors. Even Kendall Jenner is on L'Oreal Paris. And the whole portfolio has a lot of faces. But Alia's announcement from a PR point of view, social reception was phenomenal. Even whether it was view engagement rate, even versus a Kendall launch, probably because Kendall obviously is one of the biggest and the most followed person on social gram. But that also talks about how India is making a very, very strong footprint globally, and how L'Oreal as a group, we are very, very serious about building India in a very, very big way. So yes, we launched Alia, and we did outdoor massively in Mumbai and Delhi, and we saw a huge improvement across. And then you will see, we've done a lot of mall activations again to celebrate, the Indian pride, the activation. So yes, we've done all this activation. And how did we activate it in a very different way? For the first time ever, we collaborated with Forbes. Why Forbes? Because we've traditionally always done Vogue, but why Forbes is simple, because we wanted to celebrate women in the field of corporate, etc. And traditionally, Forbes doesn't associate it with consumer division products. They haven't done it in India. So we were the first few brands to do it. And we pushed Forbes and worked together to celebrate 30 under 30 women. Because a lot of times what happens is 30 under 30 women, or even their flagship events, unfortunately, because of the ecosystem, India is extremely skewed in gender. And hence, we wanted to give opportunity to the young entrepreneurs, influencers, KOLs to come together to celebrate it. And that's something we've done in a very, very big scale with Forbes, the whole Women of Worth activation, and the 30 under 30 summit, their flagship event. Now, with all this, all of you may ask, yes, you've signed Alia, there's an Indian society. How do you measure success? One of the biggest success metrics for a brand is brand health, which is mind measures. So spontaneous awareness, we are the number 2 brand in India, way bigger than every other makeup brand there out there. And also, when you do a pre and a post dipstick on how the imagery has moved for the brand, you will see that on women empowerment, confidence, elegance, trust, there has been a shift post campaign. And as you see, from a 30 to go to a 44 in Spont is phenomenal, and you do not hear it at all. At least I haven't heard about it in my 12 years career. So that's something you see in terms of mind measures. Okay, then we've done mind measures. You're working on brand equity. How does this translate into business, right? And that's something, we all will be wondering, because we're all here to run a business, not just build brands. So we didn't stop here. So what we did was, and this was something very interesting and something very new age that we've done, is even before the launch of this campaign or Alia is always known to wear the pink peachy lipstick. She wore it at her wedding, which was quite clutter breaking because a lot of brides wear a deeper lip. So she was the trendsetter who wore a subtle pink at her wedding. But she also wore this lipstick, and we didn't promote it. It was an organic seeding at the Ambani wedding, at Jigra promotions, at multiple touch points. Alia, 1 month before her launch, she was seen wearing this pink lipstick everywhere. And people were like, what is this pink lipstick that she's talking about, wearing everywhere, etc. And then boom, when the campaign went launch, she was like, okay, guys, let's call it the Alia shade. It's called Worth It. It also ties back to the whole worth narrative, that particular shade. And it's something she's always worn. So we did that, and it became really big and viral. And it was not just that. She also wore it at Paris Fashion Week for her debut. And something that we did interestingly is build community with her fan clubs. She has a massive fan club base, because she's one of the biggest stars in India. So we did a pre-tease where an Alia signed lipsticks was sent to all her fan clubs, and there was massive FOMO saying, where do you get the lipstick? How do you get the lipstick? Something that was signed by her. So that's how we started building it. And then there was a lot of virality saying with Tarini, with multiple influencers that we did, saying, what is this shade that she always keeps wearing? Everyone was very curious about it. And what we did is, to also keep sensitivity of Indian skin tones in mind, you have Alia, who's a lighter skin tone. So she has a light pinky, but for a deeper skin tone, what is the right shade? So we had Worth It medium. So we didn't promote one shade, but we made it a little more inclusive for Indian skin tones. And we had multiple shades. So we did all of that, and there was massive organic love. It blew up. We sold around 15-20 times of the quantities we've ever sold on L'Oreal Paris makeup. Having said that, if you see the metrics, we were number 2 brand on makeup SOI, climbed by 5 points SOI share of influence. There were massive mentions organically, video views, engagement. So there was everything that was happening just because of that insight, saying that um, she wore it at her wedding. It was clutter breaking, but how do we make it more authentic? Because if a brand comes and says, "Hey, wear this lipstick," was this that lipstick being seen on a spox for over many months and many events? It drove a lot of authenticity. So when the brand came and said it, everyone knew that they were not like making it up. It was something that was Alia wearing. And then, of course, we had a big debut with our global spox at Paris Fashion Week. Something that we do very proud about is taking India to the world. And Alia wore that shade at Paris runway. And then the whole conversation was about the What It Glow, the look, the makeup. And what was extremely phenomenal is she was the celebrity with the biggest impact ever for her debut. And when we talk L'Oreal Paris and celebrities, you have the top three supermodels working on the runway. So it's very big. And the lipstick was so central to this whole conversation. And that is how we were very proud of building a very new age style. And then something that we did, like I touched based upon, is her fan clubs. We sent exclusive signed lipsticks to around 500 plus fan pages. And we didn't sell it anywhere. This was all before the sales happened. So everyone wanted this lipstick that she's signing, her note, but where do you get it? There was so much FOMO happening. And her fan clubs are a huge bunch. So it was extremely high reach. And then we sold it on Myntra. So when the festive season is happening, we are all shoppers. We shop on Nykaa Pink Sale, we shop on Myntra. So we had an exclusive drop and we sold 2,000 lipsticks in just 8 minutes and everything got sold out. And that's how, because there was so much FOMO and viral marketing that happened before it. In 8 minutes, we completely sold out the 2,000 lipsticks and we wanted to keep a smaller quantity to create that FOMO. And with all of that, what was the results in L'Oreal Paris makeup? We grew four times the category of makeup, so around 60% growth. We are the number one liquid lipstick on Nykaa. And Nykaa for us is an important player because it is a more premium SEC kind of a consumer base that sits there, which talks back to the L'Oreal Paris consumer. And also we drove up the SOI. And what has been very interesting is that we didn't spend on TV. We didn't spend on doing a YouTube campaign. We didn't, do traditional media. All of this was built on the back of advocacy, eventing, and community. It was a lot of PR, and of course, the power and voice of reason of her. So you have the whole women empowerment angle with the whole worth piece and the lipstick conversation. So it was a very big case study for us internationally as well, because it's very difficult to connect brand purpose and women empowerment to back to business. Because a lot of brands do brand building, but how do you ensure that it also translates into business? And we walk our talk, right? And that's what the campaign was about. So with that, we had tough years on L'Oreal Paris makeup. COVID wasn't really kind to any of us on the makeup business across the category. So it was that particular campaign which in festive last year, which completely reignited the flywheel. And today, in 2025, we are poised to doing 2.5 times the number of last year, which is very tough as you see the business market today. But we are still get to do that because, again, like I said, and it always keeps humbling me that the power of a consumer insight and how you translate it. You always don't need crazy media in the new age way of marketing. You just need a strong insight and advocacy and PR also to build that. And that's been our journey. With that, coming to the end of the session, it's about building brand purpose to driving growth on makeup. And yes, India is definitely worth it. So yeah, that's from me. Happy to take on questions, if any, as well. Ravideep, are there any questions? Do you want me to take some? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Pravalika, we'll park the questions for the end. Firstly, thank you so much for the insights that you've shared.
Pleasure.
Um, from here on, we'll have our next speaker join in. That is Mr. Vivian Gonzalez. Uh, he's the Assistant General Manager Marketing at Garnier, and he has extensive experience in digital transformation, consumer engagement, and leading impactful brand activations. So we'll just wait for Mr. Vivian to join in.
Hi guys, can you confirm that I'm audible and that you all can see my screen? Hello. I'm sorry, but can someone confirm that I'm audible?
Yes, when you're audible and we can see your screen. You can start.
Okay, super. Great. Thank you so much. So I'm super happy to be here to talk to you all a little bit about male grooming today. I think it's been a topic that's very close to our hearts for quite some time, and this has been something that we as a brand have really set out to try and break several taboos on. Some of them seem to be a lot simpler than they actually are, but they're actually very interesting ones to tackle from a brand lens. So I'm really happy to be here to talk to you about it today. Let me dive straight into the problem very quickly. Men are very simple creatures when it comes to grooming, and their problems also tend to be very simple as well. Right? Today, the biggest barrier that we need to tackle is that men don't talk about skincare at all. Right? And while this has evolved over the last couple of years, today men are still looking at skincare as a little bit of a taboo and have not really evolved as much as say perhaps the female audience have. For example, men today consume on average 2.8 products versus an average of 4.8 products when it comes to women, right? So there is a significant difference today in terms of the adoption of skincare between the two genders. So what we set out to do at Garnier, and especially on Garnier Men, was to try and democratize skincare conversations for men. Because today it was not just about the product, but it was actually about the fact that skincare conversations itself weren't really happening within the male cohort. And we wanted to break that taboo and break it in a manner which was acceptable and fun for men at the same time. Right? So we looked at a certain opportunity that existed. For us, we saw two big buckets that were out there. One, we saw that there was a big subscription, and I mean, all of you all out there are subscribers to OTT today, I'm 100% sure, or you all are sharing IDs with someone. But 95 million subscribers, which has grown significantly now to almost around 300 million subscribers, as well as podcasts, which at that time, especially post COVID, was starting to accelerate. And with the advent of Spotify, etc., it's just gone up even further since then. Right? So, with these two things in mind, we said, can we actually do something different and talk to men in a language that they would understand? Right? So then we put three things together. We said we have the third largest market globally for OTT. We have the number one men's skincare brand in Garnier. And of course, you have a top three OTT platform like Z5. And coming together, we were able to create something special, which was the first ever celebrity podcast for male grooming. Now, you may ask why celebrity podcast, but we said, you know what, this is more than just a celebrity podcast. It's actually about bringing together two bros to be able to actually talk and talk actively about what people are not really comfortable talking about when it comes to skincare. Right? So, let me show you a quick glimpse of what we did. It was a 3-episode series, which of course starred the OG bros on Garnier, John Abraham and Tiger Shroff. They were both put in a setting that was very familiar to them, but at the same time was very interesting for the both as well. They were asked to talk about topics that range from all kinds of men's conversations to also incorporating skincare in their very simple but yet engaging conversations. It was different from what they would normally be doing. It was more about tapping into their own personalities, getting these two people to actually bring a fresh perspective from Tiger, of course, who was slightly new, to John, who was of course a much more seasoned hand in the entire thing. And we were able to create something quite special. Let me show you a quick glimpse of the entire episode. I hope you all will be able to hear the sound as well.
I don't believe that. I'm very shy in public places. Get lots of sleep, have a proper skincare routine.
लाइफ में हमेशा शॉर्टकट मत ढूंढो.
As a filter slap.
Short, sweet, effective. I like it.
Short, sweet, effective was actually the theme of the entire thing that we wanted to really drive. The point is that men don't like having serious conversations, and humor as a genre has been really effective in terms of reaching them and communicating to them in a manner that's easy for them to understand, easy for them to consume, and yet have difficult conversations at the same time. The entire 3 episode series was based completely on this principle, to be able to say that we want to have conversations in a manner that's super easy to consume, and yet at the same time in a really fun conversation as well. So what we did was we actually went, sold this property to Z5, got them to actually activate it as an exclusive on their platform. It was available on all of their shoppable lists, which you'll be able to see right from their carousels on the homepage to playlists, thumbnails, etc. It was across all of our social feeds, and it was a tie-up with, at that time, of course, which was the one of the biggest OTT platforms that existed. Of course, today the landscape has changed significantly. We also managed to work with them in particular to try and seed this content further, because what's super important is also to be able to have real authentic faces having the same conversations that you're having on your mainline comms as well. So we were able to actually get a couple of their own TV stars to be able to actually create their own broadcast kind of promos, which then went across all of the media that existed on Z5. The results were quite fun in the end of the day. We got over 2 million views on this podcast. You could see that it came at a massive 65% BTR. Just to give you an idea, the bench is generally around 32%. We saw a big jump in awareness of around 14 points, and we, of course, saw a jump in preference as well, which was super critical, because the job at the end of the day is still to democratize face washes. And with this simple yet effective way of doing it, we were able to have conversations that helped men to actually open up and have a few more conversations around something that was more than just a soap. So that's the short and sweet for me. Much like the Garnier Men podcast, simple, effective, yet fun are the 3 words that I would leave with you in terms of being able to create engaging conversations with the male audience today. That's all that I have to share, but I'm more than happy to now take a few questions and also talk to you all. Ravideep, back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insights, Vivian. We'll take up the questions now. So we have one question from Navdeep. He is asking, how can men's care brands redefine grooming by addressing evolving consumer expectations, breaking stereotypes, and fostering long-term brand loyalty?
Ravideep, sorry, I lost you in between. You said, how can men's care brands do what? I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
So the question from Navdeep is that how can men's care brands redefine grooming by addressing evolving consumer expectations, breaking stereotypes, as well as fostering long-term brand loyalty?
Okay, great. No, I think there are 2 important parts to your question, Navdeep. Thank you so much for asking. One is breaking stereotypes. I think that's a big evolution from what men have actually been able to do over the last few years. So I think 2 big changes that have happened, at least what we are seeing in terms of trends. One, today men are more open to grooming than they've ever been before, right? From being only a high penetration on soaps, today we see high penetrations on face washes. We actually see the unisex conversation on products like serums also picking up, right? So there are already stereotypes that are being broken. There are different men today. There is, for example, the modernist who has a very contemporary belief in terms of his grooming rituals, as well as the quiet sage, for example, who is somebody who is extremely contemporary, but at the same time is still a little more reserved in the kind of products that they choose. I think what will be super critical is to choose who are the right men to talk to and to have a conversation with them in a very simple, effective manner. Men don't want to be told about the problems that they're having. They want to be told very directly about the solutions that exist for those problems. Right? So have very simple, very direct conversations with them. Remember that the grooming landscape has already evolved. So you may not need to break too many stereotypes. You might just need to give them the right reasons to be able to adopt grooming and adopt beauty rituals going forward.
Yeah, I believe that answers Navdeep's question. Thank you so much for that. We'll just wait for a couple of seconds. Probably everyone just had a share of understanding through this session in case any further questions come up.
I don't know if Prabha has anything else to add. She could also add into what I said earlier. So
Yeah, no, I was just thinking it was quite interesting. and Viv's worked longer on the men care category. I was just also thinking, like, probably I think a bit of consumer work at your end also to understand what are the barriers today. Why do they not even use it? Is it like ease of use? Is it because they don't have time? They don't even feel a need for it. Habit change does take time, but I do feel when you, what is marketing, right? You're creating a need out of something that's probably not even like a big need. So understand it a little bit better, and that will give you a little more depth in your journey to finding these answers as well, and everything else follows. So a little bit more consumer work, talk to people around you, meet people, see what it is, meet people across different profiles, and that will give you a little more understanding on what are the barriers, what are the triggers, what is their attitude towards you, and that will give you a good foundation to build. What are some of the next question is, what are some of the unique challenges for men's care brand in the Indian market? I can actually start with this question while Vivian will have more depth. Is something that we've had as a challenge, right? Like L'Oreal Paris, we had L'Oreal Paris Men Expert in the past, and then we discontinued in India. I think the challenge was, whereas Garnier Men is extremely successful in India, and I think the challenge that L'Oreal Paris faced back in the day was that we didn't have scale for what the brand stood for. And I feel that happened because you had a global model which was being used for India, but not necessarily an India first model. This was like 7, 8 years back on L'Oreal Paris. And the Indian consumer, whether it's male or female, the way they approach beauty is very different from the global consumer. And that's something, as L'Oreal, as bigger MNCs, we've been more humble about in the recent years, saying that probably a global model doesn't fit India, even for the men's category. We need to think India first. And that's why Garnier has done a phenomenal job, right? They work very grassroots on India. So first, the challenges on assuming the Indian consumer is the same. It's not. So you need to understand the Indian consumer a little better. Second thing, the other challenge that comes in is scalability. I do feel that from what I see that, and what Vivian said rightly, it's still a very basic consumer. So cleansing is probably a very big category with them, but like a serum or an evolved product, it doesn't happen, right? Even sunscreen. My personal example, my husband's always playing cricket every day. I just cannot convince him to wear a sunscreen, and it's like, please do it. Your skin will get spoiled. You'll be in your 40s. You'll have wrinkles. No, it never happens. So they don't even feel the need for it because we've grown up being made to believe that Indian men, we are invincible, we can take it on, we can fight it on. No, your skin is not like that. So I think that awareness is a little bit lacking, and we need to create that awareness and that tension as to why these products are more important. And the third thing, from a scalability point of view, still a lot of shopping is at a family level. So in the basket, probably your partner is ending up using your products. They don't even know probably what, why it is. They end up using it. So how do you make sure that that the person feels there's a need to use a product meant for his skin, which is probably different from a woman's skin? And that tension is something I think are some challenges that I've seen in the L'Oreal Paris world, and Vivian can add more because he knows more about Garnier.
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to just build on what Prav said at the end. I think the biggest challenge that exists today is actually the unisex play for most brands in the market, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example for cleansing. 54% of men use a face wash today, but only 4% of them use a men's face wash. There's a massive gap that exists today in terms of the unisex usage. And I think that's a big thing that brands really need to figure or solve for today, right? So I think what we have done at Garnier a lot is to actually not go down the route of saying that, you know what, hey, you're a man, so you need a man's product. I don't think that's the direction that we ever want to go in. What we have found success in is actually telling men that there are specific problems that require men's solutions, right? And for those specific problems, we have extremely efficacious products, and men have bought into that, right? I think going forward as well, we need to figure out what are the right entry points for men into the category. And most importantly, remember that you need to have exciting conversations with them. If men get excited about a particular topic, it could be something as simple as, I don't know, maybe telling them that it's their favorite sportsman using it. It could be as simple as integrating with possibly one of the biggest sporting events that exist out there, it could be placing it in their gyms. I think you just need to find the right balance, the right touch point to be able to get men to have an easy yet exciting conversation around a category that you want them to shop for.
Yeah. Maybe you can take this question as well, Vib. What's the future of men grooming looks like, and how can the company adapt to the changing needs?
The future of men's grooming is super exciting, and that's why we are having this conversation today. I think we are scratching the surface of men's grooming today, right? A few years ago, when I worked on the category back in 2020, we were saying that men can't even use a face wash. Today, we are seeing that on an average, men are using 3 products, right? It
Yeah.
may not sound significant, but it is a big shift. It's a big shift. Men are adopting serums today. Men are becoming more open to the conversation that sunscreen needs to be used every day. Men are using toners, right? And of course, the moonshot on this is to get men to use makeup eventually at some point in time. And I think that's, of course, a very, very long drawn out process, because of course we have to have the right products, we need to be able to have the right formulations to get men to actually adopt categories going forward. And of course the challenge on makeup will possibly be the highest, and Pravalika would be able to tell you a lot more
Yeah.
about that. But I think today we are at a stage where getting men to adopt skincare and getting men to adopt serious skincare is the biggest thing that we would want to do, at least in the near future. And then of course
Yeah.
going forward, I think the moon is the limit for us on where we could go with men's grooming.
Yeah. So there's one question which I can take. Can you share how L'Oreal promotes inclusivity in its product offerings, ensuring they cater to a wide range of skin tones, hair textures, and cultural preferences? Okay, so I think I'll step back, and something that we take a lot of pride in as talent who've been working for the L'Oreal India is, if you see the global investor report that the group has released more recently, it has a big call out and mention of L'Oreal India and India in general. So that's how serious the group is about being more India centric, about building India and making India a very, very big market. Now, what does that mean? Is that we have big labs and R&I centers in India, where the labs and R&I centers are constantly doing work on testing skincare products on India, makeup on India, as well as hair in India. We are different, we are wired differently, so one size fits all doesn't happen. So whether it's product launches, whether it's for skin tones, textures, everything, there's heavy testing that's happening on Indian skin and hair. So that's one thing. And second, if you would have seen our campaigns over the last year, there were big outdoors, for example, on a molecule that we recently launched called Melisil. This molecule on skincare was invented by Indian scientists and exported to the entire world. Today, you will see the molecule in a La Roche-Posay. You'll see it in multiple brands across the world, but this was invented in our labs and by Indian scientists. So yes, there is heavy export of a lot of things happening from our labs here, and heavy testing that's happening, and cultural preferences. And that's something I've touched base a little on this session, is that we celebrate Indian pride on a global scale. As Indians, we are extremely proud of it. You will see us folks wearing a sari and walking on a Paris runway or at a can. You will see us being international or wearing a Rahul Mishra. So it's very inclusive right now, and that's something that's being celebrated. All our campaigns, for example, our most recent campaign says that Melisil has been tested on all Indian skin tones and types, and big outdoor everywhere. So there is very conscious, approach to how we do it, and you will see a lot more of that as well. And second, to inclusivity, the media model has changed, right? Back in the day, probably from a L'Oreal Paris experience, there was an Aishwarya Rai, there was an ad, there was a can, there was an outdoor, and probably she was one of the biggest touch point for the brand. But today, the way we do media mix is advocacy has as much spends as probably an awareness media versus a transaction media. So it's so fragmented. And today, when we work with 100 influencers, they do come across different skin tones, types, body types, hair types. So that's how inclusivity will come in. So consumer today is not seeing only one touch point, which has an Alia Bhatt or an Aishwarya Rai, but she's also seeing 100 influencers which are talking for the brand. And that's how consciously things have been changed. Now, there is another question on how does L'Oreal tailor its approach to effectively reach various consumer segments, considering the unique needs and preferences of different age groups and cultural backgrounds. Again, of course, there's product and comms where we do it, and Vivian can help out. Also, media. I think the
Yeah.
traditional way of approaching demographics is no longer relevant. There are cohorts where you segment people basis their attitudes and preferences, basis cues available with a Meta or with a Google, and you reach out to that audience that way. You work with your first party data that way. So the way you approach media also has evolved considerably. Versus back in the day, probably when we started, we had age, we had some demographic segments, and we went straight from a very demo approach. But now it's way broader on how you reach media as well.
Yeah. No, I think most importantly, if you look at what Garnier is also doing for inclusivity today, there's a lot of conversation in terms of having different people in our tribes. We no longer have one brand spoke. Every piece of advertising that goes out today from Garnier is actually a group of individuals that are representative of the country, because we live in a country that's actually so diverse, right? So I think that's a conscious effort that we are also making in terms of driving inclusivity in advertising as well. I can see a question also here on what are the steps being taken to engage the young consumer. I think I'll take that. I'm very happy to take that also. Look, one thing that we've realized is that the younger consumer is actually a very fundamentally distrustful audience. They're distrustful because of also the exposure that they have today, right? And that's because of the fact that you have so much of advertising, like what Pravalika said, right? And there are so many conversations that happen today on the internet that make this audience fundamentally distrustful of the traditional brand templates. And hence, you need to break away from those traditional brand templates. You need to have more immersive experiences. They want to come and really experience your brand, see what it does for them, and hence going on ground, giving them a chance to get into your brand world becomes super important. We did that with the Garnier Green Science School. We went to 100 colleges, set up actually a Garnier experience for our consumers to come in and be able to actually be in the world of Garnier rather than just use our products. And I think that's what I would encourage you all to do also. If you want to engage with a younger male audience, think of what is the immersive experience you can give them.
Yeah.
A simple example which you might have never imagined that a brand like Garnier would want to do is we took over washrooms in the IPL stadiums, because again we wanted to give consumers a chance to experience the brand in a place where the product was also being used. So we had a much more elevated experience of the brand, of the washroom, great environment, as well as giving out face washes. What better opportunity to get men to use face washes than at an IPL stadium? So I think think immersion, think experiences, think about how can you make your brand more meaningful to them. These are ways to engage with the younger audience.
Yeah, and to what Vivian said, that meaningfulness is extremely important. The young audience, like he said, is exposed. They're very smart. They've grown up in a world where they've had more access to information. So if you're not meaningful with an authentic tone of voice, you will not cut through to them. You have to be very authentic and very transparent in what you're saying to them, and that will become very critical. Okay, so we take the last question,
The most important one.
yeah. Oh, we forgotten one, is it? Which one?
The most important question: what tips do we have to give them basis our experience in L'Oreal on Brandstorm? Do you want to go
Interesting.
first?
Yes, I can. Okay. Over the last 8-9 years in L'Oreal, if there's one thing that the group believes extremely strongly, is consumer. What is our biggest learning has been that, and even learning even with all the indies gaining share everywhere, has been that if you do not know your consumer, you do not spend hours in studying them, studying like ratings and reviews on products, doing social listening, seeing what they're saying, you are setting yourself up for failure. And as marketers, I strongly believe that always go back and hear what the consumer is saying. So if there's one tip, as someone who's worked for so many years across as many portfolios, is just that spend that time in understanding who your consumer is when you build your case study as well. And as consumer division, because that's who the case study is about, even more so you need to know that, and that will set you up for a very strategic and clear approach on how you build your case study.
Yeah, and I think for me, I would just reiterate what she's saying. Start consumer first, but don't be afraid of a big idea. I think at L'Oreal, we really encourage big ideas. So come in, give us crazy ideas, challenge us on what our traditional beliefs may be, but most importantly, root it in sound consumer logic.
Yeah.
This is really important. And just my from my experience of working with Brandstorm teams over the last few years, just remember we are a very visual organization. A lot of
Yeah.
times what happens is ideas can come to life through text, ideas can come through life through big words, but if you can bring your idea to life visually through your presentation, I can tell you that you will have a much better chance of succeeding at Brandstorm than somebody who might possibly use more text, right? It's a very
Yeah.
simple thing, but I think very important for you to remember that the aesthetic and the visual of your presentation can take you a long way in this competition, right? So just remember, be consumer first, be visual, challenge us. We are looking for big ideas, and I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing that we want to leave with you all today.
Yeah. And if you guys have any more questions, you want to reach out to us, both of us are available on LinkedIn. Our full names are on the screen out there. Please reach out to us. We've had great experiences in L'Oreal. We are extremely proud of being here. And we're always happy to help in your journey, towards the Brandstorm experience in L'Oreal as well. And happy to take it on. Ravideep, you want
Yeah.
to say something?
Sure. Thank you so much, firstly, Vivian and Prabalika, for your insights. It has definitely been helpful for all the people who have joined in and all the people who are going to watch it post the live stream as well. So, definitely, and as you mentioned, all the tips and suggestions that you've given, they will definitely, it will be helpful for all the participants. And for all the participants, the deadline for the submission is tomorrow, end of day. Hopefully, this session has been fruitful for you all and has provided you that direction in terms of your submission. So look forward to exciting submissions and future engagement with all the participants. Yeah.
Good luck.
All the
Good luck.
best.
Thank
All the
you.
best, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.